Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Career Night. Tonight, we are delighted and very excited to have with us Rafa Sánchez from Repertorio Español. And I'm going to start by saying a few words about his academic background and professional career. Rafael Sánchez is the Associate Artistic Producer at Repertorio Español, Spanish Repertory Theater, a nonprofit organization that has been performing Latin American, Spanish, and Hispanic American theater in New York City. Rafael Sánchez is also an actor. He teaches at the Hispanic Languages and Literature Department at CUNY Queens College. Born and raised in Madrid, Spain, Rafael has a BA in drama from the University of Kent at Canterbury, a Master in Performing Arts from the University Rey Juan Carlos, and also studied graduate courses in comparative literature at the University of Puerto Rico. He's currently finishing his PhD in Hispanic Studies and Literature at the University of Puerto Rico. He has taught at that institution since 2012. Actually, he's also an adjunct lecturer at the Hispanic Languages and Literature Department at Queens College, CUNY. His work with nonprofits has been proved for more than 10 years in Puerto Rico, where he has lived until 2017, and the US, with companies such as Tantay Teatro, who Rafael is a founder, and Boundless Theater Company. He also is performing artist based in New York, having acted in and or produced over 50 works in Spain and the USA. Thank you so much, Rafael, for being here. I should add to that description that you are a supporter of Montclair State University in its project on audio description for the theater for the blind or visually impaired Latino community in New York. Maybe we can talk about that later in the Q&A. But I am very, very excited and happy to be here. And I really appreciate that you take the time to share your experience and your work with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me and for inviting me. I will say that I'm not only a supporter, I think that we are collaborators, right? Like it was a project that we worked together, and I'm sure we will go deeper in the conversation later. But yes, I've been doing theater my whole life. That's basically my career. But on the other side, I've also been teaching at different universities. So yes, should I begin with my introduction and talking about my life?
Sure, why not?
Well, basically, I studied a BA in a Bachelor of Arts in Drama at the University of Kent. The University of Kent is located in Canterbury in United Kingdom, the University of Kent. But I didn't study in London. I did in Spain. They had some facilities in Madrid. And that's basically where I studied for 4 years. I decided to go to this university because it was like a real, you know, a real performing school where we not only learn about acting, but also about everything related to theater, from how to understand a play. I have classes like playwriting, producing, voice, dance, singing, theory, a lot of philosophy, so set design. So I liked this university because it was not like, you know, the typical drama school where actors want to be actors and directors want to be directors. So we were all together, and I really liked that experience. And after 4 years, I decided to continue my education with a PA, MA in Performing Arts at the University Rey Juan Carlos, Universidad Rey Juan Carlos. It's also in Madrid. And that MA was more like theory, and it was not that, you know, not it was more studying and researching than performing. But it was very, very, very interesting too. And in 2007, I decided that I was moving to Puerto Rico. So This question probably probably you will ask it later. So let me tell you from now. I did it for love. I was in love with someone, and I moved to Puerto Rico. And yes, I stayed there for 11 years, since from 2007 to 2017, 11 years. Um, Basically, when I arrived, I continued my education with a second MA in comparative literature at the University of Puerto Rico. And while I was studying my second MA, I was teaching at the same time at the university. And during that time, I founded my own theater company. That's when Tantay Teatro was born. And this theater, I don't know, probably it's the same in other careers, but in theater you cannot just wait for someone to call you or to hire you. You have the tools to create whatever you want to. So I decided that with or without money, I was gonna be producing some place that I wanted to show in Puerto Rico. So we founded the company there. It's still alive, despite of the circumstances. And I produced around 14, 15 different productions in 10 years. And at the same time, I was studying after, I didn't complete my MA in comparative literature, but I transferred to the PhD in Hispanic literature. And in 2017, there was a terrible hurricane that probably you remember, which was Maria. And I spent the hurricane in the island. And 10 days after, trying to survive and trying to embrace that I was not gonna be able to have a project or work in months, I decided to leave the country. So we took a boat to Santo Domingo, to Dominican Republic, because there were no flights. And then I went to Miami, to Florida, because I had a project in Telemundo at that time there. And after the project was done, I moved to New York. And I arrived here 3 years ago. And now we have a pandemic, so it seems like I'm the luckiest person in the world. No, just kidding. I honestly, I think I'm very lucky, because despite of all the circumstances, I'm 35 years old, and actually I'm the associate artistic producer at Repertorio Español, Spanish repertory theater company. I don't know if you're familiar with the organization, but um, I've been working there since I arrived here, and I honestly think I'm very privileged to just arrive 3 years ago with one suitcase, because we couldn't even pack. And in 3 years, the position that I have, and I'm teaching at Queen's College, and all these wonderful things that has happened in these last 3 years, I can't complain about them. So basically, when I arrived to New York, I knocked the door of Repertorio Español because I had worked with them in Puerto Rico. They took to Puerto Rico Crónica de una muerte anunciada by Gabriel García Márquez, an adaptation, a theatrical adaptation. So Repertorio went to Puerto Rico, and I worked with them there in the island as an kind of assistant producer. They needed someone in Puerto Rico to manage everything, since they were not from there. So I helped them, and that relationship was like 2 or 3 years long, because they keep coming every year to do that play. So as soon as I arrived to New York, I knocked the door on the repertorio. You never know when you help someone who's gonna help you. So the executive producer, Robert Federico, he has been working at Repertorio for 48 years now. He's 75, and he's retiring. So at that moment, he was looking for someone to take over the company. And Repertorio Español is a 52 years old organization. Um, it's a very important theater company here in New York and in the United States. It's one of the companies that all of our work is performed in Spanish. We are open for everyone because we have subtitles in English in case you don't speak Spanish. But all of our work is in Spanish. It's performed in Spanish. Maybe not written because we produce plays from Spain, from Latin America, from the United States. Obviously, always Latinx plays in case we're talking about the United States, or at least plays that talks about the Latinx experience in the United States. But we go from Golden Age. We have an adaptation of El Quijote by Cervantes. We have La Casa de Bernarda Alba, which is a contemporary classic masterpiece by Federico García Lorca. We have adaptations of novels such as El Coronel no tiene quien le escriba, and new plays of contemporary playwrights. So it's a very wide spectrum, and usually we have between 12 and 14 different productions at the theater running at the same time. That's basically what a repertorio is. A repertory theater company, it's a company where you have several plays, and depending on the day, you do one or the other. So what we do at the theater is that, for example, on Tuesday, you can see El Quijote. And then on Wednesday, you can see En el Tiempo de las Mariposas about the Mirabal sisters. Or on Thursday, you have another play. And that's how we work. Like we have 300, well, we have 300 performances yearly before the shutdown. And we serve to a lot of schools in New York City, and the tri-state area. Students come to our theater and enjoy our productions. And also we have some educational programs where we go to the schools and we work with the students, and they create a play, and or they come to the theater after a workshop, or we tour and we bring them the play to the school. We have a lot of community work. We do community performances for everyone for free in several boroughs. We visit, we have another program that is called Su Casa, and we work with elderly people. So we never get bored. We try to bring performing arts and culture in Spanish to a different population, and yeah, and it has been very exciting all these 3 years. It has been exhausting because we do a lot. But we have a beautiful space in 27th Street between Lexington and the 3rd. Maria Jose has been there several times, and Raul, I think you were there for the project. And you know, it's a 140 seats house. It's very small. It's very cute, and it's an old building, a 120 years old building that needs a lot of love. We take care of it, but you know, it's a very old building. But I think it's like a jewel in the middle of Manhattan. You know, it's this little box in the middle of the city. So it's beautiful. The work that I'm very proud of the work that we do, and it gives me the opportunity to do whatever I love, the thing that I love the most, which is theater, but at the same time keeping my roots and my language in my work. It's not like I'm working with the public theater, which I would love to, but I'm not working with a company where I don't feel myself reflected. You know, like the vision that we have and the projects that we share, it's part of our identity. And seeing the students come into the theater, for example, to see a play like La Gringa. La Gringa is about this Puerto Rican, New Yorican. She was born here in New York from a Puerto Rican family, so she travels to Puerto Rico, and she's treated there as La Gringa, but when she's here, she's treated here like the Puerto Rican. So it's this identity crisis that all of us who are immigrants or who have we are Latinx or Latin descendants or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're from Afghanistan, if you're from Peru, or if you're from China. If you have been through that process, you have think at some point, who am I, or what is my identity, or where is home, right? So seeing the students come into the theater and relate or resonate with those kind of plays, I think it's the most rewarding thing in the world. So yeah, that's basically what I do. I produce, I act, I teach, and I'm always busy.
That's fantastic. And I can feel that energy that you have and that you put and the love that you convey to all your adventures. So, Rafa, performing arts, performing Spanish, culture, literature, education, dance, Spanish language, all those intersections is something that we always infuse in our students, especially because we have in the audience some students who are in the College of the Arts, and they are maybe double majoring in Spanish and theater. So you have talked already a little bit about that, but maybe you can elaborate about the fact that these interconnections between language, culture, and the theater have, and what possibilities of career opportunities they have if they do this like double major, they combine both areas.
Well, at this point, knowing two languages is one of the biggest, gifts that you may have. It's something that sometimes I talk to my students, and some of them have lost the tradition of speaking Spanish, or they're ashamed of, or they don't feel comfortable speaking Spanish. And I can totally understand. It's one of the first things that we have to work with them as professors, right? But I think it doesn't matter if it's in theater, if it's in whatever, it's important that you work on your languages in general. It doesn't matter if it's another language that is not Spanish, but it's useful. It's always, and it's not about talking perfectly. As you can see, I'm making a lot of mistakes, but it's about communication. So if we can understand each other, we're fine. Related to theater, for me, in my case, that I studied literature at the university, it happened that at the same time, well, two things. First of all, when I was not having a job, like, as a theater artist, sometimes you have a project, sometimes you don't, sometimes you have an income, sometimes you don't. Being able to teach was like a part-time that I've always had and I've always kept. I don't like to put all the eggs in the same basket, right? So it was wonderful because it's not my full-time. I love to do it, but it's not my full-time. And at the same time, that let me do theater or express my art or perform or do another things that I like to do. But at the same time, I've never thought that a person is just one thing. I've never seen myself as I'm a theater actor or I'm a theater artist, so I cannot do anything else. Like, I studied literature because I really liked it. It was not because I was forced to. So why can't I teach a class, or why can't I produce a play, or why can't I rehearse, or why, I've never seen myself like doing just one thing. So putting together this Spanish background, or this background in literature and in Spanish, with a theater company that basically that's what the company does, was like the perfect match. When Robert met me, it was like he had a lot of people in Repertorio that were able, and that has been longer than me in the organization, to take over the company. But it's not that easy to find someone that knows about art, about theater, but at the same time knows about literature, and at the same time knows about administration. Because as a theater organization, there are a lot of things that people doesn't know. Obviously, the fun part is not fundraising. The fun part is doing theater. But you don't always have the opportunity to do it. So there are other things or other skills that you have to develop. Like, for example, fundraising, I most of the time, and basically that's what saved me during this pandemic. The theater artists, obviously, they are not working currently because the theater is closed. But since I am an administrator of the theater, I work developing projects. I work deciding whatever is coming next. I work reviewing proposals for grants. I work doing reports or reviewing the reports that the development team does, taking decisions. So I I I don't like to tell artists do not study art, because basically that's what I did and that's what I really encourage everyone to do. But it doesn't. It's not a bad idea to have another thing like I did. I think I added some layers to my education. It's not like you're one thing or the other. It's like you are this, but you can put something more. Like, why not? And at the end, it's gonna give you more opportunities of funding. I've always said that I prefer to work in a theater, even if it's whatever. I don't mind to, I don't know. Everything is so fun. I don't care if I have to be an usher, if I have to clean it, if I have to. I don't care. I just want to work in a theater because I prefer to do it there, which is the place where I think I belong, than do any other thing that is gonna be boring for me or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that you have very clear your priorities, and everything else as extra layers, as you said, is going to be beneficial for you because it's going to make you a more well-rounded professional. And of course, in the case of students, your resume is going to be more marketable. I love that. I want to give the floor to the students and to the participants. I see friends of us, alumni, and faculty in the audience. So you can make your questions. You can formulate them in English and in Spanish, or if you feel more comfortable, you can write them in the chat. So I don't know if someone wants to speak now or start questioning, and then I can read in the chat. Or I saw that Chelsea had a comment. So I don't know if you wanna, it was a question.
Yeah. No, it was just a statement basically saying that I'm sorry. Well, first of all, I'm sorry because they're doing construction. But I was saying how I like, as well as some of my classmates had mentioned that um it is something, like, we see you speak about this, and yes, we can see ambition within you, because it is something not like, I feel like you need to have a lot of discipline, motivation, um you know and time to do all of that, because sometimes like, I see you and my brother, because my brother, he he's going into his 6th year in college, and still for his undergrad, and he found himself in the conflict that he wanted he was into music, he was always into theater, he did everything you can think of, but then when it came to deciding how to put that into a career, that's where the conflict began. And it's like, the first thing he went to school for was music education. And then he realized, I don't want to be a teacher. I like to perform. I like to act. I like to sing. So he didn't know, like, I wish he was here right now, because, he can learn and everything. But it's the fact that he didn't know, he didn't even have the guide to say, how can I do that and love what I'm doing and to do it for the rest of my life? So he switched his career to music business. And it's going, seeing different musicians and actors, and like hiring them through a company. So it's like I would love for him to continue that path. And it's like, instead of pursuing it, he let that die down because he didn't have that motivation. He didn't see someone that he could follow as an example. So it's like it's so hard to have young people that have that same ambition and motivation and that love for performing in theater and education, but to do it all at once. So it's like, what can you say to those students? Like, if they want to do the same thing you're doing, how to start, how to continue, how to go through the journey, how to find those open doors to do what you love. But then also, I know that in that area, it is really hard to be financially stable, because like you said, you would feel so happy being an usher, just to cleaning in that area because that's where you want to be. So it's like, how can you do that when you don't even know if you're going to even have the income or the things you need to support yourself in life? It's just, I think about so many things when it comes to this, because it's so true. It's so true, and so many people go through this.
Well,
so that's what I want to say.
It's very complicated because it's something that we have said a lot, like, artists are not economically stable. But think about this, like, I've been doing this for 35 years. My husband was touring with the Anastasia musical, for example, before the pandemic hit. Who has stability right now? Like, what do you want to do with your life? I know that there are some basic things that we need to have, like housing and food and health and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's what do you want to do? Because you only have one life. And whoever that tells you that you can only do one thing is lying to you. You can cook, you can be a mother, you can be a father, you are not only one thing. You're a human being that can do a lot of things. So yes, it's true, but it's the same with other careers. I have a lot of friends that studied economy in Madrid, and now they are one of the best sellers in Herbalife. I mean, they wanted to work in a bank. But they discover another path in their life. It's totally fine. My husband, he's a dancer. He took 7 or 8 years in finishing his career, and his career was not a dancer. As a dancer, it was an account. He is an accountant, and he doesn't even do our taxes. So what I mean is, like, it took 8 years for him, but at the same time, he was dancing, he was touring, he was doing a lot of things. And honestly, at this point of my life, and again, I'm one of the luckiest persons in the world. I do what I love. But first, before I forget to tell you, it's very important that if your brother doesn't like to teach, it's important that he needs to find the passion on doing it or not doing it. Because it's not like I'm teaching because, okay, that gives me an income and I don't like it. No, I really like it. I really like it. So we cannot think that teachers or educators are the leftovers of whatever they did not succeed or whatever. So I mean, there is another fact, and it's that I am workaholic. I work a lot. At some point it has been a problem, because if I wanted to work at the theater at Repertorio Español and as a producer or administrator, but I wanted at the same time to be in one of the plays, so I had to stay for rehearsals, and then I wanted to teach, so I only have Sundays off. So when do I teach? On Sundays, 8 credits in one day. So when is your day off? you don't have it, but you're doing what you love. So at least I'm 35 years old now. I can do it. I'm not sure if in 30 years I'm gonna be able to keep this this busy time. But since I like what I do, and it has been that way my whole life. When I was in Puerto Rico, I remember that my first class was at 7 a.m. in the morning. I was teaching that class, and then I went to the TV show. I had a TV show, a daily TV show in Puerto Rico. I did the show, then I came back to the university. I taught another class, and then I went to a rehearsal, and then I ended my day at 11 p.m. after all the rehearsals, and it was it's a sacrifice. It's you're committing your time. I don't have children. In my case, I didn't want to, because honestly, I don't have the time, and I don't think that will change my life completely. But even if you have children, you can do it. You can always find the time to do whatever you love. So I will encourage everyone not to quit or not to take decisions like, okay, no, I'm gonna study whatever economy because or business because I will never be a guitarist or a pianist or whatever. You can do both. You can do both.
I have a question from Matthew. I'm going to read it from the chat. It says, for someone who is unfamiliar with the theater and the process that goes into creating a theater production, can you describe the process your production goes through when creating a show? How and why did you start offering options to help the visually impaired for your theater production? So 2 questions into one.
Wow, that's a very good question, because usually as an audience, we go to the theater and we sit there. We believe everything is happening on stage, which, let me tell you, it's a lie. And at the end of the show, you go home and you're supposed to leave the theater a little bit changed or reflexive, or something happened. You enjoyed, you had a good time, you didn't, you learned, and you experience these stories that the characters are living through, right? But there is a lot of work before that. It may be a commission of a play that you commission, for example, like we did with Coronel. El Coronel no tiene quien le escriba. No one writes to the Coronel. That we commission an adaptation of the novel. So everything begins with an idea. I want to do this play. I want to do an adaptation of El Coronel. But then you have to contact the author if he's alive, or the family if they are not, and get the rights. And then you need to find someone to adapt that novel into a script, or if you're not adapting a novel, someone to write the play, right? Or you read a play and you say, I want to produce this play. So the first thing is picking the project, like, what do you want to do? What are we programming? In the case of Repertorio, we try to have a balance between contemporary plays and classic plays and golden age and countries, or it's we try to have some things from Spain, some things from Latin America, so if you think that one of the shows that we have is closing, you need to find something similar to cover that new space available, right? So after you decide the project, you have to hire the team. And that means designers, light designer, set designer, costume designer, choreography, director, actors, all the team, the whole team. I'm skipping some steps. You need to have funding. You need to have resources to do it, right? And usually we do that. Like I know that we're producing, for example, we're working now with a theatrical adaptation of Eva Luna by Isabel Allende. And once we knew that we wanted to adapt that novel, we got a grant to commission the script, the adaptation of the novel. And now that we have it, we are hiring for whenever it is possible to reopen the designing team. That's a long process because that depends a lot on the director. If the director wants to have their meetings, usually we have meetings, producers, directors, and set designers and light designers and all the departments involved in the theater process. And we discuss what's the vision, how's gonna be the vision, what colors are we using, what's the aesthetic, what's the direction that the director wants to create. And then we hire the cast. Usually the cast is one of the last things that we do, because the most important thing is to have all the leaders of the teams in the same mood. Like, it doesn't make sense that I am directing a play and I'm thinking that it should be a comic aesthetic like Oscar Wilde, and then the like designer comes with a proposal about realism. You know what I mean? It's like we have to be all in the same direction. And after that, we begin the process of the rehearsal process. Each department works on their own. Costumes does a costume. The set designer design and brings a model, so the director knows how to move the actors. And we rehearse usually between 1 month, 1.5 months. That's a very different process depending on the director. And then we have a tech week. That's the week before opening, and we do rehearsals with costumes, with lighting. You know, after all those rehearsals, now the actors need to adapt to the lights, to the set, to the space, because they have been working their relationships, their characters, the story, how to tell this story on their own. But now we have to put all the elements together. And that's what we call the tech week. And usually we have a dress rehearsal the night before opening, which is where that's, we always try that it's not the first time that it happens, but usually it's the first time that nobody stops the play, right? Like, if your wig is off, get over it, find a solution. Or if you fall, stand up and we continue the play no matter what. That's the dress rehearsal. And then it's opening night.
Hola, hola. Buenas.
Buenas.
Voy a hablar en español porque estoy muerta de las ganas por escuchar tu español. Mi nombre es Jenny. Yo quiero primero que todo saludar al doctor Galope, a la doctora Linda que está conectada. Rafael, muchas gracias. María José, muchísimas gracias. Tengo el corazón así como lleno de esa pasión que se siente cuando se habla de estos temas. Amo este tema, amo estar en las tablas. Los que no me conocen, he trabajado con la doctora Linda ya en 2 obras y media de teatro. Y Rafael, sé de todo lo que hablas y gracias por todos tus conocimientos. Yo creo que aprender de una persona tan profesional como tú, yo creo que nos llena muchísimo. Y tengo un comentario para hacerles, y es que lo que habló ahorita la chica anterior, y es que cuando aprendemos durante el transcurso de la vida a amar lo que hacemos, sea lo que sea, yo creo que nos van llegando las cosas en la vida, lo que queremos. Y bueno, van a hacer cuentas, pero no importa. A los 40 y pico de años se realizó mi sueño de estar en las tablas, de poder realizar una obra de teatro como fue la de Bernarda Alba. Y yo digo, bueno, corroborar más que los sueños hay que lucharlos, que los sueños hay que visualizarlos, que esto es pura pasión, que hablar de estos te llena el alma, el corazón, las venas de amor por este arte. Y bueno, pues gracias a los que hicieron posible esta charla y decirles que muchas gracias y que encantada de conocerte, Rafael. Mil gracias por eso. Y a la doctora Linda, aprovechar que está ahí en línea y decirle que gracias a ella he logrado muchas cosas y he logrado poder estar en donde estoy ahorita en mi franja artística.
Muy
Sí.
bien, en realidad el que nace artista, muere artista. Esto puedes dedicarte a lo que quieras, puedes hacer lo que quieras, puedes comer de lo que quieras, pero incluso dentro de de las ramas de los artistas, para que vean un ejemplo de algo que nos cuesta mucho, como tú decías, como realize, de soy una cosa o soy otra. Omar, mi esposo, siempre tuvo una carrera como bailarín clásico. Bailarín clásico, bailarín, 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 bailarín. Nos mudamos a Nueva York y está haciendo teatro musical, voy a cambiar al inglés para, and so he's doing musical theater, he's doing plays at Repertorio, he's doing plays outside of Repertorio, and he's like, sometimes it's hard for him to tell he's an actor because he has been dancing his whole life, but he is an actor.
Claro.
He's doing it. And even when he got the check, it's like, are you an actor now? Like, you're charging people for acting. Are you an actor now, or did you embrace it? Because it's hard. We all have this chip in the head that says that you're just one thing. And even when you have to describe yourself, usually if you ask me, who is Rafa? I will say, well, I'm an actor, I'm a producer. We describe ourselves with our profession, with what makes us have money in our account. And it's not that, it's what we love to do. That's it. I mean, hay gente que es muy feliz operando a la gente en un quirófano. You know, why couldn't be myself happy as an actor, as a theater artist, you know, especially in this business. Sometimes you tell someone I'm an actor and it's like, and what else? And it's like, do I need to be something else? Like, if someone tells you I'm a doctor, you don't ask, and what else? So we have to, no sé cómo decirlo en inglés, pero quitar el estigma de las artes, which is gonna be very difficult. And I think it's gonna be harder now that probably the only industry that is absolutely shut down is theater. I think it's gonna be, that's something that we can talk about later, but you know, this pandemic, it's hitting hard to our industry. Because I go to the street and I see people driving, and I see people going to restaurants, and I see people traveling, and I see people doing things, but I don't even have the opportunity to work. Not even with the safe measures, and you know, that's another rant that we can talk later.
That is so true. I have a couple of comments in the chat room. One from Beatriz says, we want to see your work virtually. And of course, I want to thank Dr. Garcia Vizcaíno because she's translating into English whatever is said in Spanish, like a summary, of course. But I have a question from Marco, and he wants to know if all of the productions are union plays, all the performance equity actors, and does the company produce any musicals or operas?
Very good question.
Yeah.
Very good question. Okay. For those who are not aware, there are different unions that rules Broadway and off-Broadway. Well, for theater, it's only equity. That's the union, okay? But if you do movies or TV shows or any film, it's SAG-AFTRA, which is another union, okay? In this case, since we're talking about theater, equity is the union. No, we don't use equity actors. I mean, we do, because some of them are part of equity. But since we work in Spanish, we are not ruled by equity. Equity only rules English and French productions in the United States, not Spanish productions, which is good, but it's bad. As everything, like everything, it has a positive and a negative aspect. The positive aspect is that while most of the theater companies were not able to produce any work the last 7 months because of equity rules, they are taking care of their performers. They want to have, they are complicated. They want a lot of guarantees, which is very cool for the performers, but it's hard to put performers to work with those many rules. So basically, we have a Repertorio some actors that are union, that are equity, but they don't need to be to work at Repertorio. At the same time, we pay a higher fee of we pay a higher fee than what equity rules. So they are not union, but it's not like we are taking advantage of that. It's just they don't rule us. And Repertorio, remember that Repertorio is a very complicated company because we change our play every single day. Equity usually rules companies where you pay to the actors per week. And that's something that we cannot do because I pay them per show. If you are in Bernarda, maybe you have 3 shows in a week, but if you are in another play, maybe you have 1. So we don't have the actors on salary. Yes, we do theater, musical theater. We have done several in the past. Usually small musicals because the space is very, very small. We cannot fly things, and it's if you're expecting Broadway tap dancing, that's not the case. But we have done several musicals in the past. One of them with the music of by Vico C, composed by Vico C. I don't know if you are familiar with him. He's the father of reggaeton and hip hop in Spanish from Puerto Rico. And we have done a lot of opera and zarzuela in the past. It's getting complicated to do those kind of projects because our house is just 140 seats. And usually when you do operas or zarzuela, you need a big cast. So yeah, we have done them in the past. We don't have anything right now on schedule. Just the musical, la canción, it's still en cartelera. We're programming it. I forgot to answer to Matthew about the visually impaired.
Why and how did you do theater productions for the visually impaired, which is related to a question that Michelle just posted on the chat that says, can you speak about the audio description people with disabilities? I guess it's the audio description project.
Well, it was you came to me, right, Maria Jose? It was that you contacted me.
Yes. Maybe I can explain what audio description is because I see some of my students here in my audio description class. But for some of you who are not familiar with audio description is the description of visual elements into words for visually impaired audiences or for blind people. So when you go to Netflix and you are watching a show, you can choose the audio options. You can choose audio description in English or in Spanish, and they're going to tell you in words what is happening in those moments where nobody's speaking, when there is no soundtrack relevant, and you are describing an action. So yes, I had this idea, and then you will follow. I will start, Rafa. I was fascinated with the description as one of the tools that we can use for learning Spanish, learning English, or improve your second language. So everything started because my sister is legally blind. I have many contacts with the Spanish National Blind Organization, and I was fascinated by the technique. So I thought about teaching audio description in my translation classes, and then I thought, where could we actually put in practice audio description for blind people in New York and New Jersey? And then I thought of Repertorio Español, And I had been to Repertorio maybe twice or 3 or 4 times, and Rafa was not there working because that was prior to 2017. So I just sent an email. I didn't know Rafa. So I just sent an email talking a little bit about the project. Then we had a phone conversation. Then we had an in-person meeting, and we immediately connected, right? ¿A que sí?
Yep, exactly.
Sí, fue así, fue como magia, magical. So I told him the project. He said, that's a fantastic idea. We can do this for the blind community in New York, and it's gonna unite like arts, Spanish, culture, accessibility, everything in one. So then Montclair State University has a program that is a community engaged program for courses. So I started to teach a course on audio description like 2 years ago. And I was assigned a community project for that course, and I chose the Repertorio. So Rafa and I, we did the partnership, and we did 2 plays. One was the No One Writes to the Colonel, El Coronel no tiene quien le escriba, by García Márquez. And that was the first one that we implemented the audio description. And I think it was a great success. And then last year we had this play by Juno Díaz that was put into theater, La breve y maravillosa vida de Oscar Wilde. And we did that too. And both of them were accompanied by a tactile experience where blind people would touch key objects of the play, and they will later associate the sounds that they're going to hear during the play with that objects that they touch in the pre-show experience. So that was really, really amazing too. And maybe you want to continue, Rafa.
Yes, I mean, you can imagine being Repertorio Español, how many proposals we receive for different projects, or I want to do my play in your theater, or I want to act with you, or I want to, there are a lot of emails. But in this case, I remember getting in contact with Maria Jose, and it was like as soon as she explained me about the project, I was like, of course, like why ¿por qué no se me ocurrió a mí? Like why we are not doing this already, because one of the things that Repertorio is a theater company, it's a theater place, it's a building, a theater, but Repertorio is a non-profit organization. One of the main things that I think we have to do is to serve the community. So it doesn't matter. Obviously, I want to sell tickets. Obviously, I want people to pay for coming to my theater, to our theater. But what I want is to serve to those who cannot afford a ticket play, those students who haven't come to the theater ever, those students who just came to the country and do not speak English, and they want to see their roots and their culture reflected. So, that community base and that service based thing that Repertorio has is one of the things that I wanted to explore the most. It's a 52 years old institution, so you can imagine how many things they have done in the past, but at the same time, how tired the people at the company can be, or just to keep doing whatever we have done always, like the way we always do things. So this project that Maria Jose brought, it was like, this is the perfect thing because it's something new, something we have never done. We're serving a community of people that they are not only having, they're not only visually impaired, they are also Spanish speakers, and they are in New York. So, it's a very small group of people, but at the same time, no one is going to do that because nobody's gonna get money for doing it. You know what I mean? Like, if this project doesn't bring thousands of dollars, who's gonna take the time to serve to these people? So that's why nonprofits exist. And at the same time, it was a collaboration with Montclair University, and honestly, it has been amazing, because not only because the relationship that we have with Maria Jose and myself, and that we created, it's because the passion of the students, the time that you spent with us, how you how seriously and professionally took the project. At some point, even more than us. Like, you know, we need to follow their standard because we have to be ready for them because they are ready for us. So it was amazing, and at the same time, we developed some relationship at some point. Um, some of Maria Jose's students ended up doing the study guide of the plays. Like, we hired them for doing that work because they knew the play better than, almost better than the actors. So it was very interesting to see and to join these two, the knowledge that Maria Jose and the students may have as translators and as audio description writers, and the script that they wrote, and the knowledge that I have from the theater, to let them know, you know, you have to give them some time here. If you don't explain them what's going on, they're not gonna know. Um, there is a lot of silence. Do you want to let that? But at the same time, I haven't had the experience of being blind, so you have to think what they need to know to enjoy the theater, the theater play, and the pre-show experience that they created with all the things that people could touch, and they it was amazing because in the first case, uh, they could touch actors, the actors' faces, so they could see how they wear or the clothes. You know, it was it was mind blowing. I really enjoyed it. I think it was extremely important. It doesn't matter if you do it for 5 people, for 10, for 1,000. You know, it's nowadays people can go to the movies and have that service, but not many companies do it. Theater companies do it. Can you imagine in Spanish?
Exactly. Begoña.
Hello. It was really nice hearing you speak about audio description. We have been focused on that for a big part of the semester in the class that I am with Professor Garcia Vizcaíno, and for me it is very wonderful. I love it, but sometimes it is very difficult for me. So I was basically wondering in what part. I know that the audio description part is very time consuming and very detailed. So to add it to the process of an entire play, how you were describing at the beginning. So in what part of the logistics of the play do you start, adding the audio description or working on it? Or if you just, add it afterwards, after the play is done, or or what do you do to the play? Do you adapt it to the format?
The play will never adapt to anything. The play is the play. It's the audio description what has to adapt, and that's why we need live people. Like, we need live actors on stage. We need someone reading that audio description. That's one of the most complicated things that one of the biggest challenges that we had, that um because we also made some mistakes, or we were learning together during the process. For example, I gave a video to the class so they could work on their audio description, but then we realized that the job was not completely done until they came to the theater and were able to see live what they do. Why? In Repertorio, you can have an actor change like this. Like, you always have, and you cannot, and I am myself, like, as an actor, I cannot tell you exactly at what point I'm going to take the glass and drink it, right? Yes, we follow a pattern. We know when we have to do things, but when you're on stage, you're not thinking about the technical thing of doing that in that moment. You're thinking in the emotion that you have, the relationship that you have with your partner. Something may happen, something may fall, something It's live theater. That's why it's so beautiful. So if you have in your script that I take the glass here and drink it, if I don't have a live reader, los llamaban readers.
Sí, bueno, sí, el voiceover o el voice talent o el locutor.
If you don't have the voice talent as part of the performance, it's not gonna work because things may change. So I will say you cannot do the audio description script before the play is done, because obviously you need to know what the director is gonna do, how the set is gonna be, where the actors are gonna walk, who's on stage and who's not. There are several things that you need to set up. But once it is done, I will bring them as soon as possible during the rehearsal process, because that will be helpful for the whole team to do and to get familiar. At some point, it must be for the voice talent. That person has to be following a script, but most important, has to be following a play that is happening. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have to be prepared with the script. You have to have it. But once you have, it's like us. I need to learn my lines before acting. I need to have them. But if anything happens, I need to be ready. I need to be so comfortable with the character and so comfortable with my fellows that I need to be ready that if the line doesn't come, I'm ready to say whatever other thing, or which is the next conflict, or where can I catch it, you know?
That reminds me exactly what you said. I mean, doing the audio description for a film, as we have been doing in class, is totally different than for a live event. And it's a challenge, but it's also the beauty that it has. And I remember the first play that we audio described, El Coronel no tiene quien le escriba. Rafa gave us the video so that we can practice in class and we don't have to go to New York every day and for the rehearsal. And then we had the script and everything, and we had performed, and we have done the voice over several times. We go to the live rehearsals. The main actor is another one. It's another one from the one in the video. Remember, Sebastián? Yeah, Sebastián. He was like completely different. The pace, the rhythm, the voice. He didn't do the pauses as we have rehearsed. The students were in panic, totally in panic. And that, I mean, I said, this is theater. These things can happen. And they were like, Profesora, we don't like this actor. ¿Te acuerdas? Qué pesadilla, what a nightmare. Like, it took them like several weeks to adjust to the new actor.
It's very complicated, because when you are, I've done several in Repertorio, and I'm taking over some parts of people that left the company. And there's no way, no human way I can do whatever that person was doing. Because I'm another actor, I have another voice, I have another feelings, I have another rhythm. It's completely different. So can you imagine? You can. There are some productions where directors need things on the spot. Like if you will have seen El Coronel no tiene, Crónica de una muerte anunciada, it was like a clock. It was like pa 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 pa. Everything was. And it has to be that way because we had sounds that matched with the movement. So it was more easy, not easy to maybe audio describe. Like it didn't change that much. But some other plays where the director wants to explore the relationship between the actors, and they are not obsessed on if the actor does this or that. It may change a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other question? I don't know how much we can abuse of your generosity and your time, Rafa.
Yo ya mismo me saco un vino y aquí me quedo hablando toda la noche.
Is there any other question or in the chat? I will have a look.
No, I don't think there is another one, but just to round up, and thank you so much for this participation, because really it's very useful. A lot of our students here tonight are not necessarily Spanish majors. They are approaching the Latin American and Latino culture through another class that is more for general education.
Mhm.
And yet they have a lot of good initiatives and a lot of talents that make them very Spanish friendly. And some of them are bilingual, some of them are approaching the culture in a very, very positive way. And so is there like a final reflection or a final word for those students in terms of the possibilities they might have if they decide to explore Spanish in a deeper way, with all these ramifications that are sometimes we don't even imagine that exist outside?
Yes, and you know, when I remember I remember studying literature, Spanish literature, usually in Spain, because in Spain we are always very focused on Spain. And so when 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 I arrived to Puerto Rico, that changed my mind a lot. Like it expanded the world that I knew, with a lot of new words that I never understood. I never knew I was understanding. A lot of new cultural things that I was not aware of. Um, I can give you a lot of examples of how ignorant I was about Latin America before living in Puerto Rico, with all the education that I had in Spain. So, you know, it's not only about learning Spanish as a language, it's about all these different cultures, which are so beautiful and so, it's hard even when we say we are Latinos or we are Hispanics or it is so wide. It's not the same to be Latino from the United States to Cuban to a Puerto Rican, which is part of the Caribbean, with an Argentinian, it's so huge that I really encourage you to study about this, to enjoy this, because what we do is not only speaking Spanish. That's something that is common in all of us, or most of us, because there are a lot of Latinos that doesn't speak Spanish anymore. So it's about our culture, it's about our food, it's about our past, it's about the way we live, the way we have relationships with each other, not only with Latinos, with any other people, any race, any background, it's it's part of growing. I think it makes you a grown person, not an old person. Like you really grow. As we said before, when I was studying one thing, I'm not one thing, I'm this, but I'm also this and this and this. And you want to, you want to learn about other people, about other, there are so many things that I don't know about Afro Latinos. That's something that is, it's not because it's trending. I don't want to learn it because it's trending. It's because I should know that Latinos are not all black or white or all, and it's important that you take the time to do it. It may be extremely useful in your careers, not only if it gives you money or not, which I hope it does. It's because it's gonna make you being a better human being, a better person, and an educated person. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I see many messages of supporting you and supporting that idea. And thank you. And also one that says that Matthew, I think he likes your shirt too. I don't know if I can just throw the last question, because I think that is something that maybe we should address, even though maybe briefly, Rafa, about the situation with the pandemic and the theater, and in particular the Repertorio Español. Are you already functioning, or what is the situation, and how do you see the role and the function of the theater in this crisis that we have?
Well, it's I usually am a very positive person. I'm always trying to think the best of everything, but I think that we are in a very difficult position. Not as Repertorio in our case, not as an organization, because as I explained, we are a long-term, a long history, a legacy company, So I'm not worried about Repertorio disappearing. I know it's not going to happen. I am worried about uh, the solutions that are coming, which are almost non-existent. There are no plans of reopening. Some other states or some other countries are working with a 30% capacity or 50% capacity. In New York, it's not the case. It's not even on the table. I've had several meetings with people from Broadway, off Broadway, government. I think we are trying to set this position, like if Broadway cannot open and Broadway needs a 100% capacity in their houses, right? If Broadway doesn't open, there is no way to open anything else. And I can't compare Repertorio with a Showbread Theater or with a Lion King. We have funding to operate, even if we have a 30% capacity, to bring some joy or cultural programs. Now, it's risky and it has to be done safely. Um, but what we have done is during these past months, we are streaming 3 of our performances. We are streaming La Casa de Bernarda Alba, Valor, Agravio y Mujer, and Boxcar, Vagón. And La Gringa is going to be available very soon. So what we're doing is working with these professors and teachers that need some plays to show to their students, because life is going on.
Right.
And we share those links with them, and they can get tickets. It's not a big box office revenue, but at least we keep doing our work. So we have had some conversations and several panels for the audience. We have the playwriting competition. If you like to write, La Familia Miranda, I'm sure that most of you know Lin-Manuel Miranda and the family. They gave us a grant. So we have this Voces Latinx playwriting competition. So you can submit your scripts and we will read them. And every year we choose the first, second, and third winners. So we have some programs, but the theater is closed and I cannot tell when it's gonna be reopening. And especially after today, that we know that tomorrow there is no school in person in New York City. Basically 60% of our audience is our schools that come to the theater in the mornings. So if the schools are closed, Repertorio probably will be closed. Maybe we can think about 1 or 2 performances once a week at some point, but we don't even have the permits to do that. So day by day, we have a lot to do, and we are learning a lot about Zoom theater, virtual theater, streaming, but we miss a lot gathering. There is nothing like the live feedback of the audience, but we have been through this for 9 months. We can survive 9 more months. We have to take care of ourselves and be responsible at the same time. So.
And in the meantime, reading lots of literature and learning languages and adjusting to time, right? Taking advantage of time at home. And
there are no excuses. If you want to learn something, now is the moment.
Okay, so I think that, students were asking in the chat, where can they support? So I just, Rafa, if that's okay with you, I copy and paste the website of the Repertorio. If they want more information. And I think it's time to wrap it up and give you a round of applause. Woo! Thank you so much, Rafa. Thank you so much for your time. Your generosity has been wonderful to talk to you. and see you with your beautiful shirt.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you for the.
I have to use the only one that I have, you know, like, you know, I'm doing all these meetings at home, so I have to.
And thank you for the good vibes that I think that you transmit and the enthusiasm. Students can perceive that through Zoom and through everywhere. And that's always appreciated. So thank you again. Muchísimas gracias. Un abrazo enorme.
Igual, gracias por invitarme y gracias por reunirse conmigo y por este ratito. Un millón de gracias. Thank you.
Gracias.
And gracias. Y gracias a todos. Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.